Hi there, welcome to video number 4, looking at controlling the Cessna 172, the steam gauge version. It's got the Garmin 530, not the glass cockpit version. So I'm controlling it using Axis and Ohs, mostly using my X-Touch Mini, and I've got a Bravo throttle quadrant as well to use with this. So it'd be particularly relevant if you've got that hardware, but actually a lot of it is really based on using the X-Touch. So it's relevant if even you haven't got the Bravo equipment. So what we're doing is we're working our way down this stack here. I'm trying to make a template for each of the avionics items so that if it appears in another aircraft, I can just drop that template in, and it makes building more aircraft much quicker. And so we're looking at the relatively simple Autopilot. It's got its own little quirks, but it's kind of an old Autopilot. And across the bottom here we've got Autopilot engage and disengage. There's no power for this switch on off, it's just literally engage or disengage. The different modes, the heading mode, nav mode, approach, the back course or reverse mode, and altitude hold. Its quirk is that it hasn't got a vertical speed button, but it has got a vertical speed mode. What happens is when you engage the Autopilot, it will automatically detect your vertical speed, whether it's up or down, and will hold that vertical speed until you reach the target altitude that you've already programmed in, assuming it's ever going to reach it. But pressing the Alt button here will put it into altitude hold mode, whatever altitude you're in. And if you come out of altitude hold mode, it will go straight away into, by default, vertical speed mode, but your vertical speed will be 0. And again, you can control that vertical speed with these up and down buttons here. Now, most of these buttons here are actually already on my throttle quadrant. If I bring my camera up, here's my Bravo throttle quadrant here, and it's got the heading mode, the nav mode, approach, the back course, and the altitude mode. It has got a vertical speed button, but it doesn't, it's not really designed to work with this particular Autopilot. We have got two stacked rotaries here, which are mostly for selecting the altitude, the outer doing the 1,000 feet, inner doing the hundreds of feet. It also controls the barometer. If you click it into barometer mode, you'll obviously need to know what the current pressure is so that it holds the right altitude. When you put it to, say, 4,000 feet, it needs to know what the current pressure is for that. So clicking on there and adjusting that will adjust the pressure setting there. And I'm not convinced that the arm button actually does anything particular. It will automatically arm when you select an altitude. So I'm not sure what the arm actually does. I've read through the manual and I can't really get anything to help me with that. But we will program it in anyway to make sure that it works. So that's what we're going to achieve. What I'm going to do is, rather than have up and down buttons, I'm going to allocate the up and down to this rotary control. So that turning the knob turns the vertical speed up and down. And there's the rotary for the outer rotary that's on there. There's the inner rotary going to be programmed into this one. And the push buttons here will do arm and the barometer mode. So these keys here, which I said were on the Bravo, I'm going to use the ones that got detected. If I go into here on the control options, I've edited the default Bravo throttle quadrant to take out the axes, the mixture and throttle, because that's going to vary from aircraft to aircraft. I've taken out the trim wheel because I want to control that with Axis and Ohs. I've taken out all the switches because that varies between different aircraft. And I've left in the flaps, and I've left in all of the landing gear obviously is in, and I've left in all the various buttons here that work, and this up-down rotary here, and this one here which selects between the different modes. So we can actually control the modes from here. For instance, the heading bug, the course. They do work from here, but I find this a bit fiddly in flight, so I prefer, if I've got room on my X-Touch, which is up here, if I've got room on there to allocate that, I prefer allocating them to here. So let's get back into the cockpit and let's go into Axis and Ohs and start programming some things up. So we'll start with the arm button. I'm not actually convinced it's simulated, but we'll put it in for completeness because I might discover more about it later. So the hardware actually identifies itself as the KAP140, although it's not written on the unit anywhere. That's what it comes up as. So I'm filtering for that, and there's the input events for it, and simply press the arm button there, press the arm here, that's allocated, and click on add, and that's in. The next one is the up and down. So we're going to put those on the rotary rather than the button. So there's no animation or anything to worry about. We just need to enter the command. So there's the up version, and that's going to be this rotary turned clockwise. And we'll do the down version on the same rotary. There's the down, and we're turning that in the opposite direction. Now we want to do the outer knob. The outer knob usually is used to change the altitude by 1,000, and it uses the same command, but with a different input value, a 1 to make it increase and a -1 for the decrease. It also controls the barometer, but there's an internal variable. We don't have to worry about it. When we click the baro button, it knows it's in baro mode. So when we turn this outer knob, it'll automatically just divert its control to the barometer mode. So allocating it. It's the outer knob, and this is the one with the input value of 1, so we just turn that to the right and click. And what we should be able to do is to actually duplicate that and adjust this one, so that's -1, and turn that anti-clockwise so that it's turning to the left. And we should see that working. And if we do the inner knob, and then we'll go in and just check that everything's working. So the same process really for the inner knob. There's the inner. This is the increase version. And then we'll do the duplicate thing again. Change the value here and turn it in the opposite direction. So let's just pop into the cockpit and check things out. I'll bring up Axis and Ohs so we can see it functioning. So that's increasing and that's decreasing. In fact, if we zoom in so we can see the animation as well going on, we should be able to see that working. What we can't see here, of course, is the vertical speed. We actually need to turn the autopilot on at that point, and we should now be able to see the vertical speed increasing and decreasing. There's no animation other than the figures changing. So the arm mode we've allocated, but that's not going to do anything just yet. So while we're here, let's have a look at the barometer. It's got two functions. It's got a short press, which just brings up the value, which we could then change. We've got about 3 seconds before before it switches back to the altitude hold. So you've got it moving on, making the adjustments, and that's how that adjusts. But you can see it's in hectopascals, and if you want it in inches of mercury, what you have to do is do a long hold, a long press on here, and we can now change it there. So there are actually two functions that we need to program into this barometer button. And I want to use the Microsoft input events, but they don't actually work with this, so we're going to have to use HTML variables. Let's go and look at this. Filter it down for the KAP again. There is the Baro push here, but there isn't a long push. There's only the short push, and I've tried changing this input number here, and I can't really make it do anything differently. So what I'm going to do is to go to the HTML variables, and here you'll see that there is a long push here and an ordinary push there. So let's just do the ordinary one first of all. So we'll put that in and program that to this button here, and now we'll program in the long click, and I'll say the long click is anything longer than a second. That's long enough. So 1000 milliseconds on here, and again I'm going to use the HTML variable and the long push on here. Click add, and if we go back into the cockpit and just check that out, so just doing a short push on here brings up the Baro mode, which I can then change by turning the same knob. If I do the long click on there, I'm now in the hectopascals version, and again I can change that using the same knob. So that seems to be a logical way of programming that one up. So that's pretty much it really. To see the vertical speed mode, again we go into autopilot on, and there's my vertical speed working, and then autopilot off, which I can do from there. Okay. So on the Bravo throttle quadrant, there is an LED behind each of these buttons here and the autopilot here, so you can see what mode you're in. And if I just move the camera down a bit, there is also an annunciator panel here. You can probably see I've got the parking brake lit up, so you can see whether the parking brake is on, and you can emulate this panel here where it's got low fuel, low vacuum, low voltage, and low oil pressure. And there's a couple of extra things I use on here as well, whether I've got the pitot heat switched on or not, whether the starter motor's running, so you can sort of control those lights. And there's a built-in set of commands now into Axis and Ohs to control that. if you don't like that, there's another product which I haven't actually tested, but I know a lot of people have used. That's available for free download from flightsim.to, called Better Bravo Lights. But I'll show you what it looks like here in Axis and Ohs. It's a download from their main website, a free add-on to here to sort of unzip a set of scripts that put themselves into this group here, Honeycomb, Bravo. And this is how you can write to it to turn all the lights on, turn all the lights off, that kind of thing. And it's really about changing the setting of one particular bit, whether you want things to switch on and off. And it's got a mapping for every light that's on there. But there is this kind of master template somewhere. There's a lot of them here. Yeah. And it's got a kind of if statement here for every single item that's on there. But what it assumes is that your aircraft actually does trigger this variable or that variable, and not all of them do. So what I've done is I've edited that, and I've got my one here, the C172 Annunciator. In fact, if I put it into PowerPoint, it's a bit larger. You can see the text that's going on here. So what I wanted to do is to only light the lights if there's actual power. If there's no power, if the voltage is 0, just turn all the lights off. If there is power, then step through here and check these various conditions, like have I got the parking brake on, have I got enough amps coming from the alternator. If I haven't, if it's gone less than 0, then light this the low voltage warning. So these are all the different warnings that I light up. And this one here, I haven't edited at all. This is just straight from the script that came down, and it just turns on the LEDs if you're in approach mode, heading mode, back course mode, and if the autopilot is switched on. And so what it does is it builds a string here, and then it writes that string out to the Bravo, and this is how it writes out to the Bravo. But these are the kind of index numbers for the Bravo throttle quadrant, so it knows where it's writing it to. So if we sort of want to see that in action, what we need to do first of all is to get that script and put it in as an aircraft automated script. So we just find it here, add it, click close, and that's running in the background all the time, checking those conditions. And then if we go into the cockpit here, if we look at the annunciator panel, first of all, I'll turn the pitot heat on, and you should see the annunciator light up. So that my anti-ice light comes on. If I switch my alternator off, I should get a low voltage warning, and then turn it back on again, that clears that warning. So that's the annunciator working. And here, if I turn the autopilot on, I get the light saying the autopilot's on, and it's automatically going into vertical speed mode. If I put it into heading mode, it lights up there. So that's how that script works. So I hope that's been useful for you, and we'll carry on working our way down the stack. So the next one is going to be looking at the transponder. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one.